Hey guys, what is up? My name is PandaMaster, and welcome to my episode 61 review of Attack on Titan. It's Monday, which means it's another Attack on Titan episode to discuss. And this episode, honestly, my expectations going into it were not super high because as much as the premiere I thought was great, it had some, it's not my homies, you know? It's not Eren, Mikasa, and Armin. And seeing the sneak peek for this week's episode, it was like, we're still dealing with the Marlians and all of that. So it's like, I wasn't sure. My expectations were not super high going into this episode. Not that I thought it was going to be bad or anything, but I was just kind of, cautious. And overall, I'm kind of conflicted about this episode, but this is the best it could have possibly been without having my trio. I think this show is always going to be hampered when Eren, Mikasa, and or Armin are not involved. I think that I feel like they do realize it. This is important story context to get out of the way, but I feel like they should know that by now. If we want to see them or Levi. Levi is also amazing. And so but this episode was really, really good overall. We got a lot of context into how the Eldians and Marlians sort of exist and their knowledge of Paradise Island and all of the just basically getting a ton more context and kind of a little bit of what has happened over the last 4 years because, if you weren't aware, it's been 4 years since the events of season 3. And so we got some context. Again, I'm keeping this spoiler free, but we got a lot of context about what's happened over the last 4 years without being directly told. And I think they're doing a really good job of portraying that. And instead of just giving us an episode, summarizing the last 4 years, it's moving forward, but then kind of spoon feeding us context. And so not only are we getting information on what the outside world is like, we are also getting information on what has happened to both sides in the last 4 years, although through the perspective of one person, because I think it's a really cool juxtaposition of we saw everything in the first 3 seasons was from the point of view of the Survey Corps, the residents of the island, that sort of thing. Now we're finally seeing the other point of view. And I believe I mentioned this last episode, but it's it makes you question your loyalties. It makes you question who is really the bad guy here, because what last episode started to do in this episode this week is really hitting home is that, it's not quite as black and white as everyone seems, and that, you really have to look at why people are doing the things that they're doing. And I think that's something that Attack on Titan has done really well over the years, and especially in the last couple seasons, like season 3 and now the start of season 4, is really just making you think about who necessarily is the quote-unquote bad guy, and that it's not so black and white as a lot of people or a lot of stories might lead you to believe. And so I thought this episode was really well done. Like I said, I miss my boys. I miss my homies. I miss my boy Levi. It makes me sad, especially because the sneak peek for episode 3, it's still continuing and focusing on Reiner and Falco and these new characters, which is cool. Again, I haven't been disappointed necessarily by this new perspective. I really want to see my boys, and I don't know how long this is gonna last, but it's the content that was there was not bad. It's the fact that the characters I've bonded with for so long and have developed such an intense relationship with, they're just not around, and it makes me sad. But there are a lot of really powerful moments in this episode that are really cool. I just gotta say, it's a little bit hampered by the fact that we're missing so many characters. And, it's one of those things where it's difficult to ping because it's not filler. I would not classify these episodes as filler because I think that they, at least thus far, have done an incredible job of sort of setting things up and opening up the context of the world and the lore and all of that. I wouldn't consider them filler at all, but they're just, when you spend 3 seasons with one perspective and then start off a season with start off this supposedly last season with this completely different perspective after this time jump and all this stuff, it's odd, especially since it's the last season. Like, this is where things are supposed to wrap up. This is where we're supposed to get a conclusion. Yet we're seeing this basically I don't want to say completely different show, but it is a vastly different show in its very last season. It makes me question the pacing that's going on here, because we're getting a new studio. I don't remember the names, but, it's a new production company is working on this last season versus the one that did the first 3. And so, we're seeing a change in direction going. And then, seeing as it's an adaptation of the manga, there is something to base it off of. But I am curious to see, how many liberties this production company is taking. Because it's, again, like, it's not bad. That's why I'm so conflicted, is because the episodes are good. It's just not what I necessarily wanted. And I really hope, so there's going to be 16 episodes this season, supposedly. I imagine split into, 8-episode bits. And I really hope we don't get 8 episodes straight of this. Because, like, again, it's not bad. It's just, I watched this show for my Survey Corps. And if my Survey Corps ain't in it, it's not Attack on Titan. Like, it's like, it just makes it very difficult for me to judge, because these episodes are not bad, but they're not really what I'm looking for necessarily. They keep inching closer and closer, and I honestly think that this next episode 3, is going to be the last time I really give it and again, it's not really a slide because it's good, but, like, I think if, like, episode 4 of this season is still dealing with the Marleyans' perspective and that, just going down that storyline, and we still have not seen anything of Eren, Mikasa, and Armin, I'm gonna be upset. Like, I'm gonna start, like, docking the show for it. I mean, it's really gonna start hitting me harder, because it's like, what are you doing here? And it's more in the aspect of trying to think of the right word of I want to say perspective, but that doesn't feel right. So basically, what I'm saying is, you've got shows like One Piece, right, which have, like, over, like, 1,000 episodes almost, and there's a ton of stuff. In terms of context, like, a season like Attack on Titan's, like, 16 episodes, that's nothing. That is a drop in the bucket. But for Attack on Titan, this is episode 61, and we're nearing the end of the show. So we're looking at less than 100 episodes. So there's less time to do filler. And again, I'm not saying this is filler, but if you're going to have your story be condensed, you have to watch how your pacing goes because of that. Because you don't want to rush through things, but you also don't want to take too much time on one certain thing. And so while I think this stuff is interesting, I think in terms of pacing and in terms of, keeping the flow and the tone of the story as it has been, not to say you can't do tonal shifts, but they have to be justified. And I don't think this is necessarily justified in the place where it's at during the show, if that makes any sense at all. And so, again, overall, if I had to give this episode a rating, I would give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was great. I think literally just the inclusion of my homies, my Survey Corps, would have bumped it up to a 9. But, we're just, it's a little hampered by the fact that they're not there. But this is the best possible outcome for what they're doing. So it's like, props to them, but also I don't necessarily want this. Like, they're doing an amazing job at making me like something that I don't want to like, if that makes any sense at all. Like, I really want to see my Survey Corps, but I haven't been disappointed by anything I've been shown so far. But the inner me is disappointed by not seeing the Survey Corps. So it's a very conflicting season thus far. But again, it is enjoyable, and I had a good time. What do you guys think? Again, let me know down in the comments below. Let's have a discussion about this. I know one other person that is caught up on Attack on Titan, and they haven't watched the new season yet. So I want to talk about this show to people. I mean, whether or not you've read the manga or anything like that, like, I just want to talk. Let's converse. And so, like if you like this video, subscribe if you want to see more. Again, hit me up in the comments below. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about any other anime recommendations, because I've said before, literally the only anime I watch are My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, and Mob Psycho 100. So, like, I want to watch more anime. So, if you have any anime recommendations, let me know. But, yeah, this has been my episode 61 review of Attack on Titan, and I'll see y'all next time.